Delmere wasn't known for arcane troubles. It had no library, no fountain, and no official practitioner. Just a cracked stone well, a few sheep, and a spring behind the baker's house that never ran dry or became contaminated, no matter the season. But a message had reached the Voxirye guild, sent by the mayor himself on salvaged parchment, carefully written by hand. He described odd fluctuations near the spring, tools reacting strangely to the water, and a low hum in the stones that no one could explain. The villagers weren't sure a spell had ever been cast there, but something felt different. They asked for help. In return, they offered what they could: a spell book preserved by Delmere's former hedge witch, bound in reed slats and filled with practical enchantments shaped for local needs. The guild accepted the offer for Mirren Brooke. She arrived in a swirl of shadowed wind, aquamarine hair spilling from the brim of her enchanted hat of holding. Owlbeal, her mechanical owl, perched silently on her shoulder, wings folded around a tiny tome labelled moss-based charms. The villagers greeted her with a mix of mistrust and offers of herbal tea. Mirren accepted both with grace. While examining the rudimentary water testing tools, she unintentionally offended a local alderman. "It's a fascinating adaptation," she said, with honest curiosity. Then she added, "though admittedly primitive compared to guild standards." The mayor, trying to ease the moment, asked if Mirren had a better method. Mirren raised her staff and spoke the verbal component of a lesser-known spell, Tessari's poison snoop, in a voice so deep it seemed to rise from the bones of the earth. A brief gloom passed over the spring, and when it cleared, the water shimmered with silver ribbons. It was a clear sign the water was pure, cleaner than anything Mirren had ever measured. She recorded the result in her grimoire as the villagers watched, equally amazed by the spell and proud of their efforts to protect the spring. That evening, children gathered around Owlbeal in fascination, watching its gears click and hum as it sorted parchment and powdered ink into hidden compartments within its body. Mirren sat near the spring, listening as the villagers described their seasonal rituals, scattering silver leaf powder around the stones, smearing sorrow root paste along the waterline at dusk, and clearing vines each solstice. They insisted it wasn't spell work, just the best way they knew to keep the water clean. But Mirren sensed otherwise. Magic lingered in the air, like tension in a drawn bowstring. The spring's energy wasn't behaving as expected. It recharged unevenly, stronger at night than at dawn. That imbalance led Mirren to investigate. Following the leyline currents around the basin, she discovered a thread of distortion tucked behind a narrow stone shelf. Beneath it, wedged deep in the roots, was an old iron hook. It carried no enchantment, but its placement had disrupted the leyline's flow, scattering the residual energy that supported the villagers' rituals. Mirren pried it free. The spring's rhythm steadied almost instantly. The enchantment wasn't broken. It had been blocked. With the obstruction gone, Mirren returned to her observations. She noted each gesture and each material. The silver leaf scatter, the sorrow root placement, the clockwise turns of the vine bundles. None of it was standard spellcraft, but together it shaped something sturdy, functional and alive. She wrote it all down in her field journal, not as folklore but as a model for any village without a practitioner. As thanks for her help, the villagers gave Mirren permission to formally record their rituals, something no outsider had been allowed to do before. It would be her contribution to the guild, and more importantly, a working enchantment that others might actually use. Owlbeal settled beside her, whirring softly. Mirren flipped closed her journal. She had come to untangle a mystery and found not just an answer, but a spell maintained through generations of care.
She stayed with the baker's family, the only household in Delmere with a spare room.
Each evening, she helped stoke the hearth before supper. One night, as dusk crept through the kitchen, she placed a fresh log on the embers and spoke a fire-starting spell. Her voice echoed low in the small space, deep and rumbling. For a moment, the room dimmed. Then the flames flared up, warm and steady. Brahma, the youngest of the baker's children, stared wide-eyed. "Is it frightening?" she asked. "To speak with a voice that sounds like thunder?" Mirren smiled. "It's how I speak my magic into the world." At dinner, she shared more of her past. She spoke of the mad monarch her family had helped remove from power, and the difficulties she'd had learning magic through theory alone.
At the academy, she passed every practical exam by adapting spells in ways that felt natural. She altered gestures to suit her instincts, reworded incantations so they resonated with the rhythm she sensed in the room. But she failed written exams time after time. The formulas never matched what she felt beneath her skin. Only after the Magister explained her bloodline did she understand that her sensitivity to magic worked differently from those around her. Before sunrise, Owlbeal returned from a midnight flight with a rolled message sealed in pale green wax. Mirren opened it and read carefully. The parchment was from the Voxirye Guild. A village near the Martians had sent a request. Their well water showed signs of contamination. As payment, they offered a spellbook, an unfamiliar one, filled with inked glyphs and weathered diagrams.
The message was brief, but the urgency came through clearly.
Mirren packed her satchel and stepped into the cool morning air. She walked to the village centre where a few townsfolk had gathered near the well. The baker handed her a cloth-wrapped parcel of travel bread. Several children waved sleepily from behind their mothers' shawls. She began her farewell, but paused halfway through. The phrase she'd prepared, formalised expression of mutual goodwill, would not mean much to them. So she simplified. "Thank you for the hospitality," she said. Then she gave the children a blank book to fill with their own imagined spells. Owlbeal lifted into the sky first, metallic wings glinting in the rising sun. Mirren followed him past the village gates, her satchel fastened tight and the old spellbook from Delmere tucked safely beside her notes. Together they headed toward the marsh.